So when we talk about the ANS, we're talking about involuntary control. That means things like your heart rate, digestion, pupil size, breathing patterns. All of that is happening automatically through this system. It's not something you consciously decide to do. The brain sends commands down to specific neurons that handle the job. Now, if you've been following along with our earlier content, you might remember the term VE, which stands for Visceral Efferent. That's the old terminology we used before calling it the ANS. Same concept. These are motor commands going out to internal organs, glands, and smooth muscles. The ANS splits into two branches, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic systems. Think of them as two sides of a seesaw. When one ramps up, the other chills out. Sympathetic handles fight or flight, meaning your body's alert, ready for action. Parasympathetic is rest and digest, recovery mode, where energy is conserved. Let's start with the sympathetic side, your body's stress response. It's also called the thoracolumbar division because it originates from the thoracic and lumbar regions of your spinal cord. Now, remember those multipolar neurons we mapped earlier? The first one always starts in that thoracic lumbar area. This system uses ganglia, little relay stations called paravertebral ganglia or preparavertebral ganglia. And the main neurotransmitters here are adrenaline and noradrenaline, also called epinephrine and norepinephrine. They connect to receptors called adrenergic receptors. That's key terminology for exams. In the sympathetic system, the preganglionic neuron is short. It only runs a short distance to the paravertebral ganglion. The postganglionic neuron is long. That's your quick visual for sympathetic wiring. Now let's talk about what happens during fight or flight. Your heart rate goes up, blood pumps faster, digestion slows down because, think about it, who needs to digest lunch when you're running from a bear, right? Respiratory tubes dilate, meaning your airways open wider so you can pull in more oxygen. Pupils dilate, bringing in more light, better vision. And your arteries, some constrict, some dilate, depending on the tissue. Blood gets rerouted to muscles and essential organs. Now let's flip the switch, the parasympathetic system. This is your recovery mode. It's called craniosacral because the neurons originate from either cranial nerves or the sacral region of the spinal cord. Here's what's different. All the ganglia, those neuron relay points, are hidden inside the organ itself. So we don't need to map them on the models because they're embedded in the organ tissue. Parasympathetic has a very long preganglionic neuron and a very short postganglionic neuron. The neurotransmitter is acetylcholine, that's ACH, and it binds to muscarinic receptors. So sympathetic equals adrenergic, parasympathetic equals muscarinic. Here's how the parasympathetic system connects to your organs through cranial nerves. Cranial nerve 3, the ocular motor, controls pupil constriction and lens focusing. Cranial nerve 7, the facial nerve, handles tears and saliva through the lacrimal and salivary glands. Cranial nerve 9, glossopharyngeal, manages one of the salivary glands too. And the big one, cranial nerve 10, the vagus nerve, this one's massive. It runs through the thoracic and abdominal cavities, controlling most of the internal organs, the heart, lungs, stomach, pancreas, liver, and about half of your large intestine, stopping near the splenic colic flexure. So what's the parasympathetic effect? Pretty much the opposite of sympathetic. Heart rate slows down, digestion kicks up, enzymes flow, stomach churns, pupils constrict, and unlike sympathetic, parasympathetic doesn't reach the lungs directly, so no major effect on the airways. If you're looking at a model or chart, you'll usually see parasympathetic nerves colored in white and sympathetic nerves in yellow. That's just a quick visual cue to tell them apart. You'll often see cranial nerve 10, the vagus nerve, highlighted as white, representing parasympathetic activity. Meanwhile, the yellow paravertebral chain of ganglia represents the sympathetic side. And a common exam question might look something like this. How does the parasympathetic system reach a specific organ, say the one shown by an arrow on the model? Your answer? Through the vagus nerve or sacral outflow, depending on the organ's location. So that's your overview on the autonomic nervous system. Two branches constantly balancing each other to maintain homeostasis. Remember, sympathetic gets you ready for fight or flight. Parasympathetic helps you rest and repair. Short pre, long post for sympathetic. Long pre, short post for parasympathetic. And the neurotransmitters, adrenaline for sympathetic, acetylcholine for parasympathetic. Keep those contrasts straight and you'll be solid for the next exam.